Good afternoon, YouTubers. Welcome back in to the final Astros recap. As Sage, my dog there, barks. But final edition of Astros recap, postseason edition. I realize it is 2 weeks since the Astros lost Game 7 of the World Series. So I'm sure most of you guys are aware that they lost. So yeah, pain has subsided. In fact, it wasn't that hard for me. You feel like when you lose the World Series and Astros being as close as they were, that things could linger for a while. But to be quite honest, it didn't. I was basically losing the 30th of October, the next day being, of course, Halloween. I didn't really think about it that much. It was just kind of moving on, business as usual. Not a lot of things. I don't know. It was a tough loss, of course, that night prior. It was tough. And, I actually know how the Dodgers feel because it also felt a little worse having the Nationals celebrate at Minute Maid Park. So, some things there. But, all in all, it's over. Sometimes it would hurt a little bit more to lose in the league championship series or the division series because there's baseball played after, and that sometimes when it can hurt when you see baseball being played and knowing you just got eliminated. But the World Series, you play that game, and whether you lose or win, baseball's over. So I don't know if that sort of makes sense to y'all, but to me it did a little. So maybe that made things better. It's tough to lose the way they did. Very interesting, odd, unusual World Series. One of the most unusual of all time, of course, road teams winning every game. In the 4 wins the Nationals got at home, we were leading every single game. And it was late in the game that they would come back and beat us, which was the case in Game 6 and 7. If Verlander wasn't good, just period, in the World Series, that is, he was okay during the postseason. Garrett Cole was basically dynamite throughout the entire postseason. Basically the stopper. Past years it'd be Verlander, especially in 2017 when they won the World Series. But not a whole lot to get into. I just sort of wrapping things up. I will be back with you next year, so probably sometime in March to sort of recap a little bit of spring training, talk about off-season acquisitions. Of course, we're losing some people. Before I actually get into that, I do want to sort of recap the games. It was more than 2 weeks ago, so looking for my phone. But like I said, we were leading both games, and down the stretch we lost. Here we go. So in Game 6, the final was 7-2. Washington put up a run in the first on a Anthony Rendon RBI single. And then we scored 2 in the bottom half. Altuve with the sacrifice fly. And Bregman with a home run. These don't even ring a bell. Usually when I'm bringing up scores and the opportunities when they scored, it sort of rings a bell. But it being 2 weeks, it's been a while. So the reason I am so late, I know I'm sort of interrupting here, but my mic had big issues with the mic, couldn't get it to work. I tried almost everything. Finally did get it to work last week, and then decided to wait till today when I'm off work and had some time. So, but yeah, we had a 2-run lead going in after the first inning. Adam Eaton homered in the 5th to tie it, and Juan Soto, I think they went back-to-back there in the 5th. And Verlander basically came out after that. But Rendon hit a 2-run shot, made it 5-2. That point in the 7th, and it's basically over. And then Anthony Rendon once again hit a 2-run double in the 9th. But Chris Davinsky's in the game at that point, so you can sort of see where that's going. But, I look at the box score. Verlander went 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, all earned, walked 3, struck out 3. ERA in the playoffs was 5.73. I'm not sure if that's just World Series or playoffs, but either way, it's not good. Peacock got an inning in the third, Harris got two outs. Presley pitched an inning, Davinsky pitched an inning. So when Davinsky gets in the game, you're probably not winning. But yeah, it was pretty much settled at that point. And then Game 7, the Astros get off to an early lead. Gurriel hits a home run. And the Astros scored another in the 5th. It was an RBI double by Carlos Correa. Might have been a single. Trying to go back here. So yeah, you had the Gurriel home run, and then Correa had an RBI single. Went up the third base line. Scored Gurriel. It's a 2-0 lead. By the way, Zach Greinke was outstanding in this game. A lot of criticism surrounding the moves A.J. Hinch made. I am not one of those people. I did not have an issue with the moves he made. Of course, things are easy to say in hindsight after they don't work out. But I try to be fair when I'm critical of A.J. Hinch. And if I'm not upset with the move when it's made, then I can't, lash out after it blows up in our face. Or the Astros' face. It's just that's how it is. So he went to Harris. I mean, Greinke had only thrown 80 pitches. He was in the 7th inning. He gave up a home run to Rendon to make it 2-1, and then he walked a hitter. And I want to say he had one out. He had basically gotten through the tough part of the order, which was Rendon and then Soto. Those are the two hitters that seemed to be tough for us every time out. So, give me just a minute here. So, as I pull up the box here, Astros side, let's see. So, yes, Greinke got out in the 7th. Gave up that home run, walked a hitter, and then AJ came out to get him. I think you couldn't have really asked for a whole lot more than what he got. I mean, he only threw 80 pitches, and he was rolling, and he was pitching very well. So there's the criticism there. But going into the game, if you were going to say you're getting 6 1/3 out of Greinke, you would have taken it. But Harris comes in, who's been the most reliable pitcher ever, for the Astros at least. And then he gave up a hit and a home run, I think. Yes. Well, he gave up 2 hits. He didn't get an out. I mean, he trying to remember, as I look at the line, the home run to Howie Kendrick, which I believe gave them the lead, if I look back. Yes, gave them the lead. It was a pretty good pitch on the outside corner. Howie Kendrick hit it down the right field line, hit off the foul pole. Not a whole lot you can do there. I give the Nationals credit. A.J. Hinch did not blow this. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. You can go to other people if you want A.J. Hinch criticism. You're not going to get it here. Harris, although had been overworked a little bit, had been the most reliable, best pitcher in the bullpen for the entire year. So, and the pitch that he gave the home run on wasn't necessarily a bad pitch. But he does that, and then Osuna comes in. You're losing at this point. One of the issues, especially with the games they lost, all of them being at home, of course, one of the things is they had the lead in every game. And not only when they gave up the lead, I thought this was important. So being down 3-2, as demoralizing as it is, the game's not over. You still got, 6, 9 outs. Yeah, you got 9 outs still. But the Astros couldn't keep it close. I felt like when they sort of gave up runs, the bullpen sort of imploded late in these games. And sure enough, Osuna did give up an earned run, but Joe Smith gave up 2 earned. And then at this point, you're down. It's 7-2, and it's the 9th inning, or 6-2, and you're down, and the game's over. So I thought it was important to keep it close to have a chance, and the bullpen couldn't do that. The only issue I had, I think, with the run that Osuna allowed, there was a runner on second, 2 outs, Juan Soto was up. I remember thinking to myself, we should probably intentionally walk him. We didn't. He got a base hit and then a run scored. That's the only thing I will blame A.J. Hinch for. And at that point, you're already losing, so it didn't really matter as much. But I don't really blame him for going to Harris. I mean, Garrett Cole was in the bullpen. There was talk about him coming in to a clean inning. Didn't want to bring him in. I mean, if you have any criticism, which you're not going to get here, the only thing I could really say is you leave Greinke in there because he had been dealing. But he was also starting after the home run, after the walk, starting to lose a little bit, even though he was only at 80 pitches. So, yeah, we lose the series 4-3. And try to think back on the season now. You know, how do I classify it? Because I continually said that it would be a failure if they do anything short of the World Series. I can't really back off of that. It's a major disappointment, but people that sit here and say we had a great season and we didn't reach the goal that was set, especially after the trade deadline. I mean, Joe Biagini and Aaron Sanchez basically fell off the map. And now I've been hearing that they're not even going to tender Aaron Sanchez, so he's probably done. Part of a no-hitter. After that, just was nothing. Biagini was a complete mess in the bullpen, so a lot going on there. But the season altogether, failure's a hard word to use, but it's apropos. It's disappointing, but, you won the American League pennant. So, I mean, that's nice and everything, but that wasn't the ultimate goal. The goal was to win the World Series, especially after adding Zach Greinke. So, it was a failure. You can disagree, and I'd love to hear in the comment section below if you disagree, but we all know what was expected going into the season. Expectations rose after the trade deadline, getting into the postseason, having home field advantage, which is kind of ironic because I think home field advantage actually worked against the Astros. Obviously, in the World Series it did. So we wiped them out in Washington but couldn't finish games at home, basically. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, which had been an issue all postseason, hitting with runners in scoring position. Astros couldn't do it. And that was a big reason for Game 6 and 7. When you score 2 runs at home, you're not going to win a lot of those games. You're just not. And you're asking a lot out of any pitcher to hold the Nationals, who sort of had a incredible postseason, of course, but found ways when it counted the most to score and take leads. You're asking a lot. So I do want to congratulate the Nationals on their first ever World Series. My opinion of the Nationals every year, of course, prior to this one, is they had no issue getting into the playoffs. It was winning elimination games, which they had never done until this postseason. But to go through, to beat the Brewers off Josh Hader in the wild card game was huge. Beating the Dodgers, who were heavy favorites in the National League, wiping out the Cardinals in 4 games, and then taking down us. They deserve it. We don't. We didn't pitch well enough, especially bullpen late game situations when it counted. Nationals came through, we didn't. And I think our season was a failure. It's harsh to say, but I think that's the reality of the situation. So, could get into sort of the offseason now. Is upon us. In fact, a story came out just yesterday about the Astros. Mike Fiers came out publicly and said they cheated by stealing signs in the postseason back in 2017 when they won the World Series. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Apparently it's under investigation, but the word, or what he said, is that the Astros had some camera out in center field and were getting signals and relaying them to the batter. I don't know. But I'm not going to go too far in depth there. I don't really know. But I don't think it's a big deal. It's under investigation. We'll see what comes of it. People are upset. Players. Fans of other teams. The Astros win. I feel like there's always people out there that said they cheated somehow, some way. I just think it's a sore loser mentality. Because when we lose, like to the Nationals cheat? We're not, saying that or anything like that. But, the big Yankees series. And Trevor Bauer's a big Twitter guy, especially when he's got nothing to do because of the offseason. He was one of the guys on Twitter yesterday that, I'm not going to get into it, but it's just it's kind of funny to me. We'll see what happens with the investigation, but that's the current news on the Astros. But, of course, Garrett Cole will be gone, most likely. A Los Angeles Angel would be my guess. They got a lot of money to spend, and they need an ace to go along with Shohei Ohtani next year if they can get him back. Chirinos, I believe, was a one-year deal. Maldonado's up. Josh Reddick's got one more deal, but I think he'll be gone. Kyle Tucker will get his chance to shine in the outfield, but needs to work on some things, especially his swing. Swing is way too long. It just, I don't know. He's got to make some adjustments. Everybody else, the core is still intact. Correa's still going to be here. No, Rendon's a free agent, and, this would be a good landing spot for him because he's from Houston. He went to Rice University. But he's going to be asking for a lot. So Strasburg, who actually won the MVP of this World Series, is also a free agent. But if you're not paying Cole, then you're certainly not paying Strasburg because their contracts are probably going to be around in the same ballpark. So, but not a whole lot to talk. When I talked to you back in March, which is 4 months or so from now, that's when I'll sort of, there'll be moves made. They got a lot of arbitration eligible guys, like it seems like every year. So things like that. I'll get into more. The Astros came out publicly, said that catching is their number one priority. I don't know if they plan to re-sign Chirinos or what, but you let Stassi go, which, okay. Of course, you lost Brian McCann after the World Series. I don't know what they're going to do. Yasmani Grandal's a free agent, so that could be a guy they want to add. It costs them a lot, but their payroll's up there. I think the pitching staff will be okay. Harris is a free agent, so that's a guy they need to definitely find a way to re-sign. Osuna will still be here. I think he's up for arbitration. Ryan Presley, I think he's still here. Colin McHugh will be gone. Brad Peacock's another guy that will be interesting to see if they keep him around. So just off the top of my head, those are sort of the people that I think about when it comes to free agency and things like that. But there'll be trades, acquisitions. Basically, the winter meetings, which is in about a month, is when that stuff starts to ramp up when it comes to, moves via trade, free agency, things like that. So don't have a lot. When the World Series ends, baseball's dead for at least a month before things start ramping up again when it comes to just, like I just mentioned, acquisitions. So I'll wrap things up there. I'm not even at 20 minutes, so this isn't one of my longer podcasts, but I did want to wrap things up there. I had fun with you guys all year. David Artis here. Follow me on Twitter at DavidArtis7. I'll be marketing these podcasts a lot more going into next year, trying to get the word out there, and also wanting to bring on guests. So that'll be big for me. I have to schedule those in advance, make sure. But you heard from Keegan twice, Pat Lapadula. I want to thank them again for joining me. The 2 times Keegan did, of course, Pat. Also, Christian Almanza and George Guerra, who joined me for one of my postseason recap days here. I want to thank them. Hopefully they'll be on next year at times, but it's always a better podcast when I have guests because it's always good to have, especially when there's conflict, which we don't have a lot of on here, but it's sort of fun to, bounce ideas off each other. It is a longer podcast, but it's a lot more fun for me, and I'm sure if I can get them intrigued enough, hopefully I'll get multiple guests. Every week I'm going to look for somebody, so, whether it's the 4 people I just mentioned, some of my other coworkers. But yeah, we'll wrap things up there coming up on 20 minutes. Again, hit that like button. Love to hear the comments, what you think of the season. If you have any input, feedback for next year, I'd love to hear it. So do all that good stuff on YouTube. Share it with your friends. But I'll sign off for the year, and you'll see me probably mid to late March going into next year, my first podcast. Uh, yeah, I guess I'll wrap things up there, but we'll see you then, which will be in a few months. Back in, March, mid to late March. We'll see you then.